It's exactly 1 month until America heads to the polls for the midterms, and isn't it shaping up to be a nasty contest? The party in power generally takes a hit. They say it's like a halfway report card for the sitting president. And surely, given Joe Biden's performance, if you can call it that, that would mean the Democrats are in for a wipeout. But of course, it's never that simple. There's the Trump factor too. And hasn't he been active lately? Joining us again, his daughter-in-law and Fox News host, Lara Trump. Lara, thank you so much for your time. Great to have you on again. Now, pity seems to be an overwhelming feeling when we talk about Joe Biden here in Australia. Is that your sense in the States as well?
Yeah, I mean, and it's very unfortunate. You know, you said it. Joe Biden is the leader of the free world, and whoever that individual might be needs to exude strength, needs to, be a great leader, but also have full cognition, and people have confidence in that for obviously Americans, but for our allies and our enemies as well. And whether Joe Biden is falling up the stairs of Air Force One, falling off of his bike, shaking hands with the air, or looking throughout a crowd and calling for a recently deceased Congress member, some of the things we've seen, obviously, from our president are very concerning. But Erin, so many of us in the 2020 campaign and during the election process tried to bring this up, tried to raise the red flag to say the Joe Biden of today, and remember this is 2 years ago, is not the Joe Biden of 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And, I think for so many of us in my family and so many of us that remember back to when Donald Trump was president, don't forget, he had an annual physical every year and then had a press conference to go over the results. And without fail, point blank, there would always be a question about Donald Trump's mental fitness from a reporter almost immediately. And obviously, that was totally fine and sound by all measures. But it's amazing to see that this same group of individuals in our American press fails to even question, oftentimes, these really frightening things we see happen with Joe Biden. I mean, my goodness, it feels to many people like we are on the brink of World War III, and we're not even questioning it here. So, yes, I think pity perhaps is a good word to describe how many of us feel at this point, but truly sad and a little bit frightened as well, because, again, this is the president and the leader of the free world.
Oh, absolutely. Frightened is another big one as well. I can't help but feeling like something is missing here. He can't walk upstairs. He's calling out for dead people. He doesn't know how many words are in a sentence. Who is actually running the show? I can't imagine that he's sitting there and coming up with policies.
Well, that's what we would all love to know, Erin, I got to tell you. And it is terrifying because, our process here in America is that the voters get to choose who leads us here in America, who our representatives are, from the local level all the way up to the president of the United States. And for many of us, we wonder, is this even an elected individual who is running things? A lot of people say maybe it's the person running the teleprompter that Joe Biden often uses and still, stumbles and has issues whenever he's using a teleprompter. But that's the million-dollar question. Who is behind the scenes? Who's making these major important decisions that obviously have incredibly terrible, at this point, ramifications for people here in America? You see decision after decision that Joe Biden has made, and where it has led us here in America. I mean, inflation is at a 40-year high. We have gas prices, again, on the rise. The fully open southern border, crime skyrocketing all over America. So whoever is making these decisions has put America on a really terrible path, and it's hurting our people. So we'd all love to know the answer to that question as well. Unfortunately, I don't have it for you.
Generally, in the midterms, the incumbent does take a little bit of a hit. How do you see it all playing out?
Well, look, I think Republicans are incredibly confident, but we never want to be too confident. You're right. The party that is in the White House generally loses the midterm elections. But I think especially in a year like 2022, when you've had Democrats controlling the House, the Senate, and the White House now leading up to 2 years, and, we just went through some of the disasters that we've seen happen in America, people are feeling the impact of their leadership, if you can even use that word. in a very real way, because people can barely get by. You know, people who are on a fixed income at this point have exhausted all of their savings. They, you know, the wages are not keeping up with inflation at this point, and it's really bad for people, and they're struggling to get by. So I think by all means, we have an opportunity to change course, and that's what the midterms are about. Obviously, every 2 years, we have the ability to say, hey, we want to stay on the course we're on now, or we want to change course. And if we've ever needed to change course in America and do it very quickly, it is right now, because honestly, I don't think people can sustain another 2 years of Democrat leadership here in America. Some people will not make it. They cannot do it.
Yeah, look, the stakes are high, absolutely. And not just your country in terms of itself being okay, but for the rest of the world, particularly countries like Australia that rely heavily on you for the world order. And looking at high stakes, North Korea's recent missile launches have sparked fears that they are building up to a nuclear test, potentially even worse. Of course, your father-in-law made historic inroads when it came to his relationship between the US and North Korea. How does he think America needs to handle what's going on right now?
Well, you know, his motto was always peace through strength. So you want to have a very strong military, and you never want to have to use it. You want people to know that if you had to use it, it would be pretty devastating for them, and hence they never even try it. So that was always his goal, and I think you saw that happen. There were no new wars started, of course, under Donald Trump. He was actually pulling many troops out of areas all around the world where they were stationed kind of unnecessarily in many cases. But you look at particularly with North Korea, with Kim Jong-un, the strides that were made there. We were on the brink of a denuclearized Korean peninsula, and that was historic. That, you know, that's something that people have been talking about for decades, and no one thought possible until Donald Trump came into the picture. And of course, you want to keep your allies close, but sometimes you want to keep your enemies even closer. And sometimes it's good to get along with those people so that there is no issue. And of course, that is the approach that my father-in-law took. At this point, you know, I think it would behoove us here in America to stop with the pronouns and the nonsense in our military, and actually have military readiness as a feature that we are you know, putting forward for our troops at this point. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that has been the case.
Well, your father-in-law is also keeping the pockets of a lot of lawyers over there fairly full as well. We see that the Mar-a-Lago documents dispute has gone to the Supreme Court now, and he's also just announced that he's suing the CNN, and no love lost, of course, at all between your father-in-law and the CNN for fairly obvious reasons. Looks to me potentially like he's trying to negate some of the damage he says they've done, potentially ahead of another tilt at the Oval Office.
Oh, well, should we talk about it here on Erin tonight? Should we do it? I don't know. I truly, you know, there's no question that there has been a coordinated smear campaign against my father-in-law, anybody, quite frankly, with our last name, for about 7 years now. There's been a coordinated attack. They have tried at every turn to defame my father-in-law, all of us in our family. They have lied time and time again about so many different situations, instances, stories, falsified, and people need to be held accountable for that. You know, that's what the American people deserve. You know, journalism, it feels like, is truly dead in so many respects here in America. And we know that our media here is not going to hold themselves accountable. So leave it to Donald Trump yet again to try and right a wrong. And I think that this is the whole goal here, is to hold people accountable, because you shouldn't, Erin, be able to just go out, defame people, lie about people, and get away with it, because it's not right for them, and it's not right for the American people who rely on, you know, our journalists, if you can call these people that, to tell us the truth and give us the facts. And they quite frankly haven't done that.
Oh, believe you me, I know more than you can imagine how that feels. Florida, I can't let you go without asking how everyone's doing over there off the back of the hurricane.
I got to say, it's been really amazing to see the way that Ron DeSantis, our governor, greeted President Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, you know, here in the state, the state level, the federal level, working together to try and help people. That's how it should always be. And I really do love to see that, despite the fact that I didn't vote for Joe Biden and I support almost nothing he has done as president. That's what we should be seeing happen time and time again, people working together to help Americans and do the right thing.
No, it's very important. We all know that. But I think I've just found my headline here. Lara, did you just compliment Joe Biden?
Well, you know what? Every now and again, Erin, we can say nice things about one another, and that's okay. And I'll stand by that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. We love having you here on Erin, and of course send all our love Australia's way over to the people of Florida as they continue their recovery. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erin. I appreciate it.